Welcome to Mortgage Wise with Mike Wise at Capstone Direct Mortgage. Today we're going to be talking about marketing. We have Matt Deseno from Baam Marketing today, and he's also an adjunct professor at Pepperdine University, where you got your undergraduate?
Yeah, did my undergrad.
Awesome. And then your master's at UCLA is right? Or MBA at UCLA.
MBA at UCLA, yeah.
Awesome, yeah. So he's got a little bit of experience going with the marketing side. So Matt, thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. The term digital marketing is in my opinion, is a very broad-based term that is used out there. What's your definition of digital marketing?
It's probably because marketing itself is the business side of communication. It's like communication is a wide space. So the professor in me would say it's connecting people to goods or services. That's what marketing is, and so digital marketing is digitally connecting people to goods or services.
Goods and services. As simple as that, right? That's all we need to know.
That's the simple piece of it, but then you realize there's so many ways to connect digitally.
What are those different ways? We'll get into more of it later, but what are the ways right now?
Well, the funny thing about it is because new platforms spring up exponentially faster in a digital space, you have new ways to do digital marketing that much faster, right? If you'd asked me, only 3 years ago, TikTok would have not been in my vocabulary.
Right.
And now it's like, well, that's one of the most effective forms because it's a great spot where people connect. There's a ton of conversations that happen, and it's not just conversations, but a lot of media that's consumed on TikTok. And so that's an example of now it's like, there's TikTok. There's paid digital marketing on TikTok. There's obviously organic or just, putting content out there, content marketing, and that's a platform that didn't exist. But there's so many. You
were talking about, I don't know, I may be old for this, but Facebook and Instagram and what else, and Twitter, all those different things. Those were the not old school, but what's...
The funny thing is just because something new happens or comes around doesn't mean the other stuff is irrelevant. So people are surprised all the time if you ask, still our main growth vehicle is Facebook.
Is it really?
Oh yeah. People are like, Facebook's dead, or you're like billions of users. You think all of them, are aware of you, know, like, and trust you? No, not at all. And it's like the glass ceiling of your business. You will never sell or serve more people than the number of people that know you exist. Foundational marketing, in that foundational connection, connecting people to goods or services, is even putting yourself on their radar. And so specifically, in your space, in the real estate space or more, lending space, that's your top level activity. Now you'll get folks that they know they need a mortgage, but they don't even know you're an option.
Yeah.
And so foundationally, where are there places where people have ears and attention where it would be a beneficial activity for them to know you exist?
So I'm going to go off the script here a little bit. Is that there's companies like big mortgage companies that advertise at baseball parks and on the radio and TV and so forth. How does somebody like me compete with somebody like that to gain that space in the consumer's world?
Well, now it's easier than ever. So the funny thing, and that's the helpful realization, is they still do that because it still works.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like they're working on awareness. They put their brand, their logo out there, and still, it is beneficial, top-level marketing that if people know you exist, I'd say it like this: if they don't know you exist, there's a 0% chance they'll work with you or buy anything from you. So not doing anything is the guaranteed way to not grow your business.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how many friends can you have online? Like now, think of even just that, the ability to connect. Rewind back, amplify this. I love those like period piece dramas, but so like, 10th century sort of stuff. It's like if you wanted to have a lot of connections, you needed to build a huge castle, invite people over for
parties.
Dinner. Yeah, you have to host these parties, and it was exclusive to have a lot of friends. You had to be very wealthy.
Yeah.
Now you don't have to be super wealthy to have a lot of friends. There's lots of ways to connect. It's the same thing for businesses. So here's an interesting thing about the marketing space. For years, companies have conditioned, or people have been conditioned to disrespect businesses. For example, you don't talk back to a park bench. You don't respond to a magazine. You don't have to say, no thank you, I'm not interested, to a TV commercial.
Yeah.
Those are common decencies that you would come to a person, right? Like I relate it back to the door knockers. Someone knocks on your door and you answer, and we've like, I feel like a common thing is like pest control around us. Like, do you need pest control? We'll say, no thanks, I'm good. That's human decency, right? Because I know it's a person on the other side of it. I don't just slam the door in their face. But for marketing, no response defaults to no interest. And so the people-focused marketing is getting them to respond. If you can engage with them like a person would, you're gonna get more responses, even if it actually is, no thank you, I'm not interested. But you will also get more yeses. Because no response defaults to not interested.
Well, and you can get to more people instead of door knocking and going door to door. You're getting to way more people based on the digital marketing.
And so a good example of this for an everyday business, so you can look at it yourself, is your Facebook, anywhere where you connect with people. So I'll use Facebook just because it's a legacy, it's a huge one. And if I looked at your, they call it like your banner image, what's behind your profile on there. Now for me, this is ironic, I have a digital marketing company, but I don't do, you gotta grow in one way or the other. We spend a lot on paid media. That's how we grow. We pay for that leverage. If you don't wanna do that, you just wanna do organic, free marketing, free digital marketing, look at your banner, the image behind you, and does it say what you do? Probably not. Ironically, like for you, if your banner image was instead an awesome photo of us right now on here, even if it just called into like, we got Mortgage Wise with Mike Wise, click to listen, and then the description on the banner image is maybe a link to the channel or the podcast or wherever it is you got published, you will see, guarantee it, a increased exposure to that thing.
Just because of your banner.
Just because of that banner, because you engage with people, and people, when they see like, oh, who's, whatever it is, what's Mike up to, what is he doing, and stuff like that, and there is free marketing, right, that costs nothing, and that's more of like, just call it your own sphere of influence, where there are folks, it's sad but true of myself, there's people probably in my network that don't know what I do, and I'd say it's true for most all professionals. In our world, it's funny, you get to choose priorities there. I pay for that awareness and leverage in that side, and I prefer to do that, and I've kind of also structured my company in a way that it's not about me. For a lot of folks out there, especially I feel like in the real estate space, it's way more, you get to be a local professional, local authority, and is more of the person who's actually helping you.
Right.
That's a no-brainer way to increase exposure.
We'll talk about that, I think, a little bit later when we get to a little bit more of your site, but that's interesting because I do want to touch bases on that a little bit more. On your site, it talks about, in fact, maybe this is it, maybe this is a good intro to this, is that on your site, your website talks about, we implement a sustainable marketing model that turns strangers into prospects, prospects into customers, customers into promoters, who bring in more strangers to seamlessly continue the cycle around. So it's just it's a circular reference right here, right?
It keeps on flywheel.
Going. So tell me, like, how does a realtor do that?
So we think of it, and I got to give credit, like this is not a concept we pioneered. This is at least this idea of a customer journey has been documented a lot, and that even, I don't know if they use the same language, but this idea of like the flywheel, I think HubSpot popularized decades ago, of looking at the customer journey. We think of people-focused marketing. If you think of it in the person, it's the relationship. It is, even if it's business relationship, and the relational aspect of it is kind of ingrained in us as humans, and we lose it when we go to the business side, right? It's like we didn't read a textbook necessarily to like learn how to find a spouse or make friends or
Right,
something like
yeah.
that. It's kind of innate in us, and we understand like the first thing you do is you introduce each other, you find out if there's any common ground, and you nurture that relationship. You
Yeah.
talk to them frequently, you know, and maybe you get to provide value in certain ways.
Yeah.
And it kind of grows, and so that's what we're looking at there is what is the customer journey, and for all businesses, you have strangers, they don't know you exist, right? They become prospects, meaning they're aware there's been an introduction that's happened, and then hopefully customers, and then into promoters where they're sending more folks. And so we look at each one of those stages and think through what are the critical activities that need to happen, and we honestly find a way to automate it. And so the surprise, this is the part that's not intuitive, is that you can automate the best version of yourself. Thanks to technology now, and this is a lot of what we do, is look at like you specifically.
Right.
You specifically have a language, a type of conversations you like to have, the core values, the things that you care about to you that attract in your best fit customers. And I'm sure everyone's doing it to some little degree. It's just that we talk about like, we call it automating your awesomeness, because it's exhausting being awesome all the time.
Right,
like you just,
yeah.
you know, and
that's what social media is,
well, that's
isn't it?
Yeah, you're like, wouldn't it be great if every time you had a successful mortgage, you'd say like, hey, would you mind, you know, leaving me a review on
Yeah.
Google or something like that? Like, you know, oh, I wish I would do that all the time. And you just like, sometimes you remember, sometimes you don't. And
Yeah.
so we leverage a lot of technology to create an orchestrated customer experience where the best version, if you were thinking of like, how would I introduce someone to my brand,
Yeah.
to my business, or how would I predictably let strangers know about me?
Yeah.
And that could be stuff that you're doing, like everything has a cost, and so you can pay for it in paid advertising,
Yep.
or you can pay for it in time and creating content.
It's somebody else talking about you even too, right? In the reviews that you're talking about, and that creates more brand for me.
Yeah. So and then that last stage of promoter, yeah, you're getting more awareness. That is the catalyzing piece. Most folks, if you have a business, you know how to turn a stranger into a customer. If
Yeah.
you feel like you either go through seasons of feast or famine, where it's good or it's bad, or you feel like, man, if I don't perpetually hustle, that this thing dies.
Yeah.
It's because you haven't completed that cycle where you're turning your customers into promoters.
Yeah.
You know.
One of the things to that is that I'm trying to change my model around a little bit to where I attract people rather than hunt for people. And so this is kind of an example. It seems like a little bit of an example of attracting more people towards me rather than me going out and door knocking and hitting the pavement and selling to more and more people just face to face.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a good, absolutely, that's like inbound marketing is what that'd be considered, where you know folks are pursuing you. You're differentiating not always necessarily on the service that you provide, but on the character, on the business character. That's another thing that's critical now. And I think I think you're going to ask about like what's leading now in terms of marketing is you can interact with the business like you would interact with a person. Facebook actually kind of pioneered this. The idea of pages. You had my friends have a page and a business has a page. That was the first time, right? Because your friends don't send you magazines, they don't show up on the TV running a commercial, so it was very distinctive. Like, that's a business, I interact with businesses this way. Here are my friends, I interact with my friends this way. Businesses were able to engage in social media, socially. They could communicate in the same kind of channels. And it's kind of been an evolution moving more and more towards that way, right? Where like email was reserved for that's like friends and family email you. Oh, now businesses email you. It's moved beyond that. Text messages. Oh, only friends and family text message me, right? Send me text. Right. No, now businesses can send you texts. And every avenue where there's kind of like this is reserved initially, usually for friends and family, it's quickly and more rapidly following that businesses can interact in that space. That is beneficial for businesses because, like I said, human decency wins out. There is human decency there, and so you're
for the most part.
For the most part,
yes.
No, but it's just like, you know, as a percentage of it, you get less folks. If they think it's actually what the law of reciprocity was considered in. One of my favorite classes in my MBA was on persuasion. Literally took a class on persuasion. Let's talk the law of reciprocity, that like we're programmed to kind of either if someone gives me a gift, I want to reciprocate it,
right?
Or it also kind of plays out that like I kind of want to do good because I'm afraid, like if I feel like if I harm all of my neighbors when the saber-toothed tiger attacks me, no one's going to help me, kind of a thing. And so both sides of
You're
reciprocating,
giving something to get something.
It kind of is, and it's not disingenuous. It's just programmed into us. And but so that works in our favor. Is if it feels like it's a person and they ask you a question or they engage, they're going to want to reciprocate, even if it's time, it's attention, it's serious consideration. All those things are beneficial. But yeah, on the inbound side of it, you can attract. I actually think it is a multiplier. So if you go out there, I'm not much of a either or kind of person. I like the both and, so you can attract absolutely. But now, if you go out there and do intentional outbound marketing, when you gather their attention, it's going to grow a lot faster because there's more there to look at than just like a billboard with a price on it. Or
exactly.
Something like
so it's limited space on that billboard, whereas on your digital platforms, you can see a whole bunch of advertisements per se.
And it feels like a rounded out person.
Yeah.
So that was your original thought there, was social media, you get to engage with the business like it's a person. If we're talking about like what do I see more and more happening, people choosing businesses in the same way that they choose friends.
In the past, and I think it's now too, is that a lot of people, especially recently, have been telling me it's relationships, right? So it's no matter if it's I'm trying to sell to a real estate agent or a customer that's getting a loan, or I'm trying to recruit somebody, it's all about relationships. And so email, text, they don't do those things, and you don't get that relationship, I don't think, through some of those items. At least it's not as personal, it doesn't seem like. But with social media, maybe that is a little bit different, where you can employ some of that personality, I guess. Mm-hmm. So you talk on your website about people and empathy. Mm-hmm. So again, digital marketing, people, and empathy. How does all that work together?
In the marketing space, some people will talk about like there's B2B, business to business marketing, and then there's like B2C, business to customer marketing. And we are very much so like P2P, person to person, people to people marketing.
Okay.
Remember, marketing, connecting people with goods and services.
Yeah.
It'd be a different world if it was connecting robots with goods and services, right? Yeah. And so at the end of the day, it's considering that because it is communication, right? That connection is usually through communication. Consider the recipient. The best communicators understand that it's not about how hard how much effort or energy you that you put on your side. It's about effectively understanding whether it's being heard. It's not just I said it, it's was it actually heard? So it's more about the recipient than it is about the deliverer. I studied abroad in Argentina, and I'm actually bilingual in Spanish. And this is a funny thing for some, you've maybe seen in the context where when people feel like the other party isn't understanding, bad communication is I will talk louder and slower.
Yeah.
So many businesses effectively do that in their marketing. They're like, oh, I'm just going to talk louder and slower. And you're like, that is not the path to success, my friend. Like that's why it feels like I'm trying really hard and I'm not seeing my business grow. And empathy is the action of visualizing, putting yourself in someone else's shoes. It's funny you talk about like the medians. This was another, I loved the psychology professors in the business department at Anderson. Another one of my favorite classes, I learned this concept of like our ability to empathize is directly related to our ability to visualize. So they would say, like they did studies of if I hold this mug and I'm like passing it over and said, what is Matt about to do? you would say, he's about to hand the mug into the other hand. You'd be like, well, why did you guess that?
Yeah.
Why would you say that? You're like, well, I kind of like, I'm putting myself in his shoes. I can see what's happening, and I imagine what would I do in that scenario based on all the context, all the background, all of that. And so that was like the study of empathy.
Yeah.
And you think about it, that makes sense. In person, most empathetic we can be.
Yeah.
Next most is video. And then you get into like other areas of like text-based that where there's our experience of kind of visualizing the other person. But this is why you look at like on the negative side of social media of, well, I'll say it's on the negative side of digital marketing as well. Like we run a lot of campaigns out there and we get what they call trolls. People just writing garbage, you know, on your stuff, and it's always text-based, right? Primarily, it's this text-based, low empathy, low consideration,
not relational,
and you see it abounds in that medium because I take the approach of like trying to understand the person on the other side is like it's a disadvantaged medium. They have been set up they're communicating in a way where it's the hardest for us to be empathetic.
For me, trying to communicate to a realtor a concept, give me an example of how I could be empathetic to the realtor so they listen to me.
Okay, so from a marketing perspective, so the first thing is it's like good gift giving. What are the things they care about? What are the problems they experience? What are the reasons why they would consider something urgent or important?
Yeah.
You know, consider like for you in the mortgage space, for a realtor to recommend you probably to a client, what are the things that they care about that would put you in a different camp, right? And so it might be that you're able to close quickly, operate efficiently, you loop the realtor into everything.
Communication,
You're flexible, you work with any sort of title company or whatever it is. I mean, here's another one of it, think about this, is reciprocating. For you, the best thing you could do in marketing to realtors would actually be, ironically, running lead gen, if you wanted to, like this help, for realtors. Imagine if you sent them leads.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? If you sent them buyers, if you had the ability, which, I mean, it's not terribly hard to do, to attract buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
And you just cycled through and you're just like, dear realtor, here's someone came into my circle, they're looking for someone to help them buy or sell. I think you'd be a great person to talk to. Ironically, you could do this in non-exclusivity. You could do it exclusive, but you could do non-exclusive. You say like, hey, here, I'm passing this around to a couple realtors I know, and let's say you send it around to 10, 30 realtors, whatever feels reasonable. All 10 or 30 or however many are gonna think, oh my gosh, the next time I know someone who needs a mortgage, I'm gonna talk to Mike.
Yes.
And the funny thing about the buying cycle, this is just true for you, is buyers and sellers could be a long process. There's all sorts of like timing aspects to that, and so it's almost easier to catch someone like who's planning on buying or selling in the next 6 months. Like that could be 6 months, a year, could be 2 years. So sending a connection over there isn't going to translate as much value for them, but when they are feeling compelled to reciprocate, they're like the life cycle of like I need a mortgage is no one's like I need to get pre-approved to buy a house a year from now. It's like I found a property. I need to get pre-approved or I need to get a mortgage right now. And so there's a good example where good marketing isn't, there's like good and great, it's not bad, letting them know, hey, I'm around here, I can help, this kind of thing, but thinking through what is most valuable to them and accommodating what they would need, what would make them feel like it was a good gift will actually in turn be more effective.
Gotcha. You've just watched another episode of Mortgage Wise with Mike Wise. If you want to learn more information or watch content, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our website, or give us a call. Thanks for watching. See you next time.